Hello, and welcome to our episode of Todd Talks and Todd Talks. People listen. Dad, when are they going to start listening to me? That's the best part. They won't. Hopefully. Okay, actually, I hope you do listen because, ladies and gentlemen, we are so back. It's time for a death battle. Ah, feels good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. It really, really does. And before I start today's episode, I want to thank you. Yes, you. All of you who supported Death Battle through the Kickstarter, of which I was one of them, and helping them get basically over 1,000, okay, almost 1,000 times their goal, or 1,000% their goal. Not 1,000 times, that'd be hilarious in a different way, but 1,000% their goal on Kickstarter. Uh, it means a lot to me that the community stepped up like that and got them funded in 20 some odd minutes. So, thank you. Thank you. Death Battle is so back, and now it's time to start things all over again with the previews. So, today, for the first episode of the new season, they said they're doing over the seasonal content, so it's like season slash year, whatever you want to call it. We have Omni-Man versus Bardock. That's right. We went all of one episode before another Dragon Ball character showed up, but hey, what are you gonna do? So, shall we have some fun? All right. Omni-Man. I've talked about him before, actually. A couple of years back when we did him versus, our Done Death Battle did him versus Homelander. Homelander's death. Classic. But Omni-Man is from the planet Viltrum. I'm just going to rewind here and say I'm going to go as much in depth as I can here because, well, why not? Why not? And it's going to matter in the end, especially because we all knew he was going to wipe out Homelander. This one's not so clear cut. So let's get this going. Omni-Man, real name Nolan, like Nohl space AWN. Sure. Was a member of the Viltrumite Empire on the planet Viltrum. And his story truly begins well before he ever even heard about a planet called Earth. Because after the Viltrumites decided, you know what, maybe it's just best if we, wipe out most of our species and try and conquer other planets because we're just better and we'll totally do it better than them. Yeah, that's not conceited at all. Nolan decided he wanted to be one of like the top tier fighters and elites, if you will, of the Viltrumite race. And to do this, he had to conquer planets. Planets, plural. All right, like he was part of their exploratory force or expedition force, expansion force, whatever you want to call it. But his job was to go to planets and basically soften them up so that the Viltrumite Empire could come in, take over, grow their numbers, etc., etc. And this eventually led them to not just honoring Omni-Man, I'm never gonna get over that. Really. Nolan by promoting him many times over and revering him for his ruthlessness, his efficiency, and his loyalty to the Viltrum Empire. And they decided to give him another planet to go and conquer, one called Earth. Gee, what could possibly go wrong there? Things did go wrong because he eventually married a woman and had a son named Mark, who you might know. I hear he's quite title card invincible. No, I'm not doing the editing. I'm not that back. All right, that's another story entirely. Um, but yeah, he had a kid named Mark, and sure enough, Mark had his powers and then some. So it was at this point that Nolan realized, I kind of need to, wipe out the planet's heroes so that the Viltrumite Empire could come in eventually. And so he did that with extreme viciousness and prejudice and malice and blood. Lots and lots of blood. Like, I have not seen, I'm going to be honest here, I have not seen Invincible seasons 1 and 2. I've seen clips and everything, and obviously I watched the original Omni-Man episode again. But, yeah, it's a violent series. It's a very violent series, so you've been warned. But he wiped out the Guardians of the Globe in like seconds, and these are like the top tier heroes on Earth. You know, their version of the Justice League or Avengers, and this led to Mark eventually finding out that his dad was a liar the whole time, and he found out that he wasn't really supposed to be here, and that Mark's mom was nothing but a brood mare for him, to get a new son that had Viltrumite powers, and such a nice guy, such a nice guy. So, as we all know, after he tried to make Mark think, the two had a huge battle, which led to Omni-Man leaving and uh, rethinking everything about his life. And they're definitely going to go into more of this side of things in this episode versus what they did with the Omni-Man. One, because our Omni-Man Homelander, because they were trying to, be less spoilerish. But here, they're just not going to care. So, after he left, he went on kind of a soul-searching mission of sorts, and he found himself on another planet that he did try to conquer peacefully. As in, he actually saved some of their citizens, got married again, had a kid again. Don't get me started on this. It's like bug aliens. I just went through this with Johnny Storm and Fantastic Four. I don't want to. No, I just don't. just don't. Point is, he tried to show a different way to conquering so that he could potentially redeem himself in the eyes of the Viltrumite Empire. Yes, even after all of this, even after almost killing his son and leaving Earth in tears, he was still loyal to Viltrum. And that was a problem because Viltrum knew what he did on Earth and they just didn't care. No. It's not that they didn't care about him not conquering the Earth. They were ticked about that. They didn't care that he was trying to redeem himself. So they sent multiple Viltrumites after him, and sure enough, they were able to capture Omni-Man. And then a whole bunch of other things happened. He helped Mark figure out the truth about Viltrum, and he actually did escape, and with Alan the Alien, and then he led a conquest of his own to try and rally people to the cause of fully wiping out the Viltrumite Empire, or at the very least bringing it down to the ground. Because, surprise, they were not title card invincible. Because as it turned out, according to Nolan, there were about 50 pureblood Viltrumites left, and the rest were just, we want to call them half species, half seas, like Mark was. And that was the hope. That was the true point of the conquest, was to breed more Viltrumites, even if they were just half Viltrumite. So that would eventually lead to a massive final battle with Omni-Man and Invincible, no title card, and so on and so forth. And that is where a big twist comes in, but I'll get to that later. So when we're talking about Omni-Man, especially after watching the Omni-Lander episode, you're like, well, how strong really is he? Because they emphasize, he was billions of times stronger than, Homelander, and billions of times faster. But just how fast? So in the preview, we saw that he's anywhere from 140 to 140 million to 20 billion times faster than light. Okay then. Why not? And we all know about his infamous smart atoms that if you recall the Omni-Lander episode, got Wiz set on fire. Fun. Debunked. But they allow him to do certain things, such as hold his breath for weeks and resist the vacuum of space, survive absolute zero or close to absolute zero, and even survive within the heat of a star for a long time. So his body is unnaturally, not invincible, I'm not saying it, resistant to these kinds of things. Like, he was getting, remember the Guardians of the Globe? Well, they did do damage to him. It was incredibly light damage. You can even see in the cartoon where, he's got like bruises and his uniform is ripped, but that's about it. And like, they're, all dead. Or how Mark, who has Viltrum powers, was able to slightly injure Omni-Man, but not really. And in their fight, they were like going through buildings. He had the infamous train feed and all of that. He redirected a meteor size of Texas, which they referenced in both previews. He helped destroy a planet. That's important to remember that he didn't do it himself. Technically, he had help going right through a planet, but he did that. and he's gone up against other Viltrumites and has had bloody brawls with them. So like he's going against his own race and won. And most importantly, arguably, is that he's like between 1,000 and 2,000 years old, and it depends on how you read the context. And he's had experience fighting on planets and conquering them for that long. So he's easily one of the most experienced warriors in the entire Viltrumite Empire. And that leads to one of the big twists I was teasing earlier, because the final battle with the Viltrumite Empire was headed up by the regent known as Throg. So Throg already didn't like Omni-Man, but then he finds out that, surprise, Nolan is actually the rightful heir to the throne. Yeah? See, Viltrum's long dead king, Nolan was his descendant. So Throg had a need to get rid of Nolan, and so he did. Yeah, Omni-Man dies. Like, he straight up dies, and he dies horribly because of his injuries. And he was literally, like, ripped in half, all right? And impaled through the chest, just barely missing his heart, because Omni-Man dodged at the last second. But, yeah, Omni-Man died, and he bestowed the crown of Viltrum to Mark, and Mark did his best and all the rest, long story short, Viltrum was now on Earth, but in the peaceful way. And Mark had a son who later went to Nolan's grave and noted that he would try to live up the legacy of his grandfather and his father, Mark. And that's actually kind of a peaceful ending to Omni-Man, wouldn't you say? I mean, after all he did, after all the pain he caused, which he admitted, like, that's the thing, remember that soul-searching mission? He totally understood just how much pain he caused, both to Mark, to his wife, to the people of Earth, and he basically spent the rest of his life, despite thousands of years of serving Viltrumite Empire, just a couple of, like, what was it? How old's Mark? Like 20 something? A couple decades on Earth, completely wiped that out, just because of the family he got, because of the lessons he learned there through Mark. So he, as cheesy as that line was in Omnilander, Mark did turn Omni-Man human. And that led to him making the ultimate sacrifice for the universe as a whole, as well as his own family. So, yeah. Not bad, Omni-Man. Not bad. Thank Mark, thank. Alright, next up is Bardock. Now, I want to make a note about this one before I even start. For the longest time, I don't know why, I always thought his name was Bardock. I don't know. I think maybe it's just a little bit of like dyslexia kind of thing, but I always thought his name was Braddock. And then when I heard his name was Bardock, I'm like, I thought it was Braddock. No, it's Bardock. So, yes, Bardock. And before we even start that, what is canon for Bardock? Well, the preview does state the official canon episode, which is episode Bardock, which is a very important thing for those who are in the know. But much like the preview, I will also talk about the Super continuity, the Dragon Ball Z continuity, episode Bardock. It's a soft composite, all right? Yeah, this is going to be fun. So, Bardock was a brilliant scientist. Wait. Sorry, that was the English translation. Sorry. Bardock was a low-class Saiyan warrior on the planet Vegeta. And let's pause right there to define what low-class means. Low class is to where their power levels, over 9,000, are measured, and then they're given certain tasks and roles based on their power level. Bardock, at the time of his, let's just say, prime Saiyan years, okay, was dubbed a low-class warrior. But he was like the hero of the lower class warriors for many reasons. One, he was an incredible fighter. He was able to do mission after mission after mission with no issues at all, and he was beloved by his companions because he would actually try to save them if they were in a bind. So, and remember, Saiyans are bloodthirsty, they're arrogant, they think they can't be beat, they're literally getting paid to wipe out planets. Remember, I apologize for saying remember. It's been remember so many times. It's been a while. I got to get back in the groove of things. All right, okay. If you recall, Frieza You know, Emperor Supreme of the Universe. um, do you think I'm a fool, Cooler? I do, actually. No, sorry, went to Del Artemis there. Who was actually animating the episode? Yeah. But Frieza's whole plan was to have basically barren planets to sell on the black market, if you will, just like real estate developers. No. So he had the Saiyans going to these planets, wiping out everyone there, and then Frieza would come in and sell the planet. And Bardock was especially good at this. He was a fully grown adult by the point of his death, which is obviously very, very important. And him and his crew, a team of about four Saiyan warriors, were able to go to planet and just wipe everyone out without issue, without fail. And that endeared him to his comrades and the other Saiyans because they knew Bardock gets it done. Okay, Bardock gets it done, and this would eventually lead to him becoming a partner with his former teammate on his squad, Gine. And they would have two kids who you should all know, Raditz and some guy named Kakarot. Obviously, Raditz is the most important one here. And because of Gine's influence, Bardock would become a bit of a softer touch, a lighter personality because he as Vegeta would say, kindness was a genetic family trait. This was in one of the movies, one of the Broly movies. But yeah, so Bardock would start to see that compassion and niceness wasn't exactly a weakness, which is completely contrary to Saiyan thought. Especially at that point in time where they were like at the height of their bloodlust, just going planet to planet to planet to planet to planet. And this would eventually lead him in one of the canons to a planet called Kanasa or something like that. And him and his crew were wiping out the planet when he met one of the Kanasans. And they decided to bless Bardock with precognition. Now, when I say precognition, I don't mean like, oh, I know what you're going to do before it even happens. No, the Kanasan was apparently trying to curse him. It's a little vague, but he was trying to show him the error of his ways through the future and whatnot. But the problem was that the same future was very, very bleak. And it all had to do, of course, with Frieza and his son Kakarot. So he started seeing visions of his fully grown son and fighting Frieza, fighting Vegeta, and the Saiyan race even being wiped out. But he thought just because this was an enemy race, he was just being delusional. He got injured too much and whatnot. But that wasn't the case. He realized eventually that this was the truth because after being injured on that planet and being put into the special pod chamber to heal all Saiyans, what was that called? Rejuvenation chamber or something like that. His crew were sent to the planet Meat. I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. What is with the food names? All right. They also had the planet Vegeta was also called Planet Plant. Yeah, believe it. So Bardock was getting healed. His team was sent to Planet Meat, and it was at this point that Frieza, Emperor Supreme of the Universe, I do a good Frieza, don't you think? He decided, no, maybe I should wipe out these silly little monkeys. So he sent Dodoria, the big pink guy, and a couple of Dodoria's elite soldiers to wipe out Bardock's team. Well, Bardock didn't know about this until he got out of the chamber, realized, oh, my team probably needs my help on Planet Meat. So he's still injured, and he goes to the planet, finds them all wiped out outside of his best friend Tora, and when he realizes what went on, he took Tora's armband, which was soaked with blood, and the Frieza soldiers are laughing at him. And he takes the blood-soaked rag, he puts it around his head, and that's how Bardock gets his iconic look. It's so boss! And then he proceeds to, wipe out those Frieza Force soldiers. Remember, the Frieza Force soldiers were technically meant to be tougher than the Saiyans. The Saiyans were like the cannon fodder, as they say in the preview, all right? All except for, the higher class ones like King Vegeta. King Vegeta, not Prince. King Vegeta, Prince Vegeta, Planet Vegeta. So, Bardock, despite being heavily injured, defeats the Frieza Force and is only defeated by Dodoria, and even then he's not killed by him. And he goes to Planet Vegeta, remember this is just the Z canon. He goes back to Pan Vegeta, tries to warn everyone, and they're not listening. They just don't get that Frieza is about to wipe them out. And so he decides, you know what, I'll take care of this myself. Because he keeps having visions of Goku, and he's like, Kakarot. And he's like, I've got to change the future. This is my only chance. So he literally blitzes into space. He takes on like dozens or hundreds of the Frieza Force himself, and even talks down Frieza. He's like, I'm going to change this fate. I know what you're doing. You're not going to be the end of my race. And so on and so forth. And of course, Frieza goes supernova, and wipes out Bardock and Planet Vegeta and most of the Saiyans outside of Kakarot, who had in Z continuity been sent to Earth just days beforehand, and apparently was spared by Cooler because obviously Frieza's careless, and if he let a Saiyan go, that's his problem. Did somebody call for a pimp? Yes, Devil Artemis universe, everybody. Pump Daddy C. Can you tell I'm having fun today? It's great. Alright, now that was the Z continuity. But now we gotta get into super continuity and then episode Bardock. Okay, so in super continuity, Bardock's last mission one of his last missions was actually to a place called, wait for it, Planet Cereal. Not making this up. And him and his crew were out to destroy the rest of the planet's inhabitants, and Bardock found a mother and her child. The child's name was Granola. But he decided to spare the child and the mother, except then a group called the Heaters showed up. This is Dragon Ball Super manga, by the way. And they tried to kill Bardock. Bardock beat Gas, who was later wished to become the strongest in the universe, and then later beat by Black Frieza. A drip like no other. Sorry, I've been watching Double Artemis a lot recently. This is his channel. But Bardock uses his, Saiyans get stronger when they're near death and defeats Gas, but Gas teases that, hey, you talk tough, but Frieza's about to wipe you all out. So he goes back to the planet and realizes that, hey, Frieza's ship is right there, and all the Saiyans are being called back. That's kind of weird, right? Right? So, even with Guinea not exactly happy about what his plan was, he decided, I gotta send Kakarot to a place called Earth that I had already scouted out, and he'll be safe there. If Frieza does something, he'll be safe. If he doesn't do anything, we can just go get him back. And sure enough, Bardock was right. Frieza does annihilate the planet, but Kakarot lives. And the future cognition from the Z canon came true because Kakarot would get his revenge on Frieza many times over. So, not bad, Daddy Bardock. Not bad. Alright, now, this is where we gotta get to the really weird stuff, because episode Bardock, which is a 3-part manga, which is turned into an OVA, is technically canon. Alright, and even the Death Battle preview said it was canon. And why is that important? Well, in this episode, they recount basically the Z continuity of Bardock's death, him going up against Frieza and losing. And he, right before the supernova hits Bardock and incinerates him, Toa from Dragon Ball Heroes pulls Bardock from the timeline and flings him into the past on planet, wait for it, Plant. Remember that? Yeah. And Bardock's trying to figure out what's going on. He's tended to by some of the local villagers and blah, blah, blah. And he soon realizes that he's somehow in the past. And that eventually leads to him being confronted by a being named Chilled. Get it? Frieza, Cooler, Cold, Chilled. They're so clever. They're so clever. And because of this, Bardock tries to go up against Chilled, but Chilled is incredibly powerful because of the natural power levels of his race, which they touched upon in the Frieza episode. And it wasn't until one of the citizens that healed Bardock almost died that Bardock reached the level of Super Saiyan. That's right. Canonically, Bardock is a Super Saiyan. And it gets even better because Bardock doesn't just defeat Chilled, he mortally wounds him, and Chilled reveals to his descendants, like the story is passed down through his descendants about the legendary Super Saiyan. So Bardock was the original Super Saiyan. Believe it. And in the preview, they said, and I even double checked the art to make sure that I was looking at the right one. That's the one they said is canon. So in this episode, Bardock will go Super Saiyan, and that's important because now we get to talk about the various. And I didn't talk about Bardock's abilities. He's just Saiyan. You know what he does. He's got ki control. He does various kinds of ki blasts and attacks. That's not really the important part. The Super Saiyan and the Great Ape are the important part, both of which will be in the episode. So, who wins in a battle between Omni-Man and Bardock? Well, I am a convert, and I owe this entirely to the Death Battle Discord, because I went into this, much like some other people who watched Death Battle with me, thinking that no one had this in the bag. I mean, he's super fast, he's super strong, he could technically take on planets himself, he's wiped out whole civilizations, and why would I think that Bardock is any different? And I blame myself partially for this, not just because of recency bias, but I didn't fully remember not just the greatness of Bardock and him going Super Saiyan, but it's easy to forget that in the original Dragon Ball series and Kid Goku Dragon Ball series, Roshi blows up the freaking moon. Yeah, Roshi blows up the moon. And Bardock is much stronger than Roshi. And this is where the different canons come into play. In the Z canon, remember that mission to Kanasa or whatever? After he was healing up in the rejuvenation chamber, the scientists monitoring him said that Bardock's power level, which we all know is not meant to mean anything, but it's important in this context. Bardock's power level was 10,000, give or take. All right? And it was even saying that at the rate he was going through the constant battles and all that, he could even surpass King Vegeta, who at that time in the Z continuity was 18,000. This is important because that means that obviously Bardock is much higher than Roshi's moon level feat. He's got the power to wipe out planets on his own, technically. And King Vegeta, as stated in the canon, well, one of the canons, I should say, was able to destroy 3 planets with 1 ki blast at power level 18,000. So while Bardock might not be at that level, he's dang close. And that's before you factor in Great Ape and Super Saiyan 1. Now, only Super Saiyan 1. Okay? Only. Alright, I was like, we're not going to go Super Saiyan 4 Bardock, as cool as that probably would look. So, that's a problem. Because while Omni-Man is billions of times faster than light, Bardock is faster than light because of just basic power scaling, which I know is so broken because we keep changing what the power levels and speed levels and whatnot all these Dragon Ball characters are. But technically, yes, Bardock is faster than light. He's and in great ape form, he'd be just as fast, just stronger and bigger by a times 10 multiplier. And then the original Super Saiyan form is times 50 multiplier. So if we take 10,000 as the base plate, that would mean with a times 50 increase, he'd be at power level 500,000. Yeah. And we all know it's Super Saiyan 1 Namek version, or Namek Saga Goku was, well, very, very powerful. Now, obviously, Bardock's not that level, but he's incredibly strong. And remember, in Saiyan Saga, Vegeta was said to be at, what was that? Well, how powerful was Vegeta? I forgot the number now, but we all know the infamous over 9,000 in the Saiyan Saga, and that was before all the multipliers. So he had incredible power back then. Vegeta was technically more powerful than him, and then Bardock was now more powerful than both of them in the Saiyan Saga, let alone most of the Namek Saga. So despite me thinking that 20 billion times faster than light is enough, it apparently isn't. No one might be faster, it's hard to calculate Bardock's speed feats, it really is. But even if he is faster, it's very doubtful he's tougher, because as noted, Omni-Man needed help to punch through a planet. Bardock could blow up a planet. Like, the Great Ape alone is meant to be a planet buster, alright? And Frieza, at the lowest level, could easily wipe out Planet Vegeta, and Bardock could now go Super Saiyan, which means he's to a certain level of Frieza. Not actually that's debatable, I suppose, because they're those base form Frieza, not like anyway. Um, the point is, because of the defined versions of canon, Super Saiyan and Great Ape, it's very likely Bardock's gonna win. All right, and you think, but wait a minute, but isn't he? But isn't Omni-Man invincible? No, he is not. Remember, he died to another Viltrumite, which means that raw power, as long as it's equal or greater than his, can kill him. And in another invincible fight, he was taken out by a group effort of 3 Viltrumites. Despite him like absolutely wrecking him, they were able to get him back. So because of that, Bardock's in better strength would absolutely allow him to kill him. And Bardock while Bardock isn't as experienced as Omni-Man by thousands of years, he's still a trained warrior. He's still a guy who's had to go wipe out planets over and over and over again. He's even said, I'm not smart, I'm just really good at combat. And he's had to think on the fly, be adept. And remember the fight with the Frieza Force? Like that was a 4-on-1 beatdown, and he used his tactics and his brute force just to wipe them out. Gas was unleashing his full power on him, and Bardock still beat him. All right? So, as surprised as I am to say this, I'm picking Bardock. I'm picking Bardock for the first fight of the return of Death Battle. It feels good. It feels real good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. It really, really does. So, with that, I am ending this episode of Todd Talk. And 1 week we have until the season premiere. For all of you going to the theatrical premiere, bravo to you. I hope you have fun. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil the fight. Don't spoil who wins the rematch. Don't spoil anything else they might show you. Just let us enjoy this. We worked really hard and paid a lot of money. Not Frieza money, but I suppose a substantial amount of money to get Death Battle back. So let's just enjoy this one step at a time. And I think we're all going to have a very fun ride because we saved Death Battle. So I thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I know you were listening, and I'll see you around.